Hello, everybody. Welcome to the last episode of this second series. I know it's taken a few weeks since, like the last one, but we're actually pushing ourselves to do this one because we want to wrap up the second series. There's been a lot of good stuff that we've discussed over the last few months. But most importantly, we're getting ready to a third episode or a third season, and we're going to be talking about that a little bit. But we wanted to take a moment to wrap up. Wes is back. Welcome, Wes. There you go, as usual, showing excitement. But I'm sure inside of him is buffing with energy and
But I've got
happiness.
butterflies. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, but seriously, welcome back. So it's been a very interesting season, this second one. We started the season last year, leading up to Black Friday. We're starting the third season a little bit early this year, only because we want to give people a chance to action some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about. But there's been some common threats. Obviously, the profitability being, a key one. But if we go back, to those first episodes of last year, so some people were, giving us feedback that they were a bit cringy because it felt like we were just, I don't know what's the word. We were just airing out some of our frustrations, but like behind some of that frustration, which I think, came from the right place. And it's because at the end of the day, we want to be able to deliver the best results to our customers and to be able to enable them and to power their profitable growth. And I think that on the back of it, there was this element of intentionality. And that intentionality, I think, was touched probably by every single guest that we had on this season. And today we're probably going to start with that. I mean, being intentional. Again, we're wrapping up this whole point of profitability, and I think there is nothing more intentional that optimizing towards that bit, like the making money part, like the actually making profit part. So, yeah, Wes, welcome back. What are your takes on intentionality, and how do you want to probably frame this wrap up in that regard?
Yeah, so I mean watching some of the episodes that you've recorded with some of our clients and partners really clear. Um Most of it isn't just about knowing your numbers and being able to measure things. I think a lot of it stems from understanding the impact of your actions on your profitability. So understanding your P&L and understanding what the numbers are and what the numbers mean and all the semantics around all this stuff, whether it's ROAS or CAC or LTV or whatever, going one step beyond that, the really experienced people, the people that are really good at this shit are the people who've made all these mistakes already, like us. And that's not being big-headed. We've been in this game for well over a decade now. We've worked with hundreds and hundreds of brands right across music retail and ecom retail. And we've made a lot of mistakes and we've seen the impacts of those actions on paid media, on the performance of websites, on conversion rates, and on top and bottom line revenues. Um, and it's an ecosystem understanding that the changes that you make to product or your website or whatever it is in your business, it's got a knock-on effect on lots of other interconnected elements. Mo Most of what we're going to talk about, it's not going to be bricks and mortar. It's all going to be around, ecom, digital revenues, and your kind of digital real estate from the foundations of your tracking, your conversion tracking, and how fundamental that is to not only performance marketing, paid media performance, but the perceived conversion rate of your website and your profitability, all the way through to kind of kind of product, and actually making changes on your website. But yeah, obviously it all starts with knowing your numbers, because really understanding your unit economics and your P&L from a really forensic point of view, and looking at that on a daily basis, from a trading point of view on a daily basis, it's a cause and effect. You understand like what was done yesterday, what was done last week, what was done last month. And when I say what was done to your website, what was done to your marketing, what was done to the cost base of your business, and seeing the effect of that on the profitability moving forward. And that's kind of how we build our reporting, our data warehousing, and our opinionation platform is all based on measuring cause and effect. So I think with, especially from a paid media point of view, with, we're getting less attribution visibility, we're getting less control over targeting with paid media as well. So understanding cause and effect is really, really important, and being able to isolate those changes and see what those isolated effects are. And
Yeah,
and that seemed to be a common thread, from all of the episodes in the season.
yeah. I think that level of transparency, and Thomas was speaking how important for him is having that level of transparency through and through. So making the P&L available to everybody, including the partners, so that you understand kind of like what's going in it. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, like you were saying, it's an ecosystem. It is not isolated pieces that on their own, they have an accountability and responsibility, but we are all in the same game, right? And unless, like if we put it on a football analogy, right? Unless you have your defense, your midfielders, and and the people forward. I mean, with one of them, that are missing, everything else ends up crumbling. And I think understanding that knockout effect, and oftentimes you might not see that knockout effect overnight. Oftentimes there is a dwelling to it, and it's only in hindsight that you actually are able to see that. And one of the things that were very clear throughout the episodes, but also something that we try to nurture with our brand partners is that communication, right? And then the intentionality behind things. It is normal, that you might have stock challenges, but then, being upfront about it, like means that then, everybody else can adapt to those things, right? I mean, if there are problems with sizing, for example, which is another example that we saw in the past, how can we adapt to that? Whether it's through messaging or so on and so forth. But finding those things after the fact, or you know, even worse, like not planning for those, it will definitely have an impact not only on your profitability but on your performance in general. And then if it is not planned for, if it is not reacted for as a team, it will be even more difficult to kind of like recover
Bring
from
it back
from
on
some of
track.
those changes.
I'll
Yeah.
I'll give you a practical example that will cut across a few of the episodes. So we've done a kind of a deep dive into unit economics, and kind of really understanding your numbers. And then we've done one on conversion rate optimization with the website, and how your definition of it probably isn't, it's probably a bit kind of old school, and conversion rate optimization is not just about UI, it can be about all sorts of different things on your website. Um, and then what else did we do? There was customer loyalty, there was some zero party data stuff. But I'll give you an example that will go from unit economics through your website, oh yeah, conversion tracking, into paid media, and how this is going to then affect the bottom line. Um, just off the top of my head, things I can think about in recent memory that have happened, that have caused all sorts of kind of ongoing issues that have lasted for a good 6 months and then take another 6 months to get back on track. So say you work on your numbers, and you've got you really understand your kind of average order value targets, ROAS targets, your CAC targets, new customer acquisition targets, your blended cost per order that you need to see from, new customers and existing returning customers. And you've got this kind of blended, here's what we need to achieve in terms of converting an order, whether it's new or existing. And then you've got, we need a certain amount of new customers, and we need our returning customer rate to be X. So say you've got all those numbers down, you pass those numbers to us as an agency. Um, we deep dive on them, ask all the questions that we need to know to really, really understand that. Ask you all the questions, we need to understand in terms of product, what are your margins on your product, and what should we put in spend behind, right? So what we do is starting with paid media and say conversion tracking. Um, we'll set up the conversion tracking to make sure that that's robust. That's the first, I would say, first and most important part of the performance marketing chain. Everybody talks about creative now, and this is in driving profitable performance from paid media. Everyone, especially Meta, talk about creative, and creative is driving targeting. No, that's just not accurate. Your tracking drives the targeting. If your tracking's broken, it doesn't matter if you've got the best creative in the world, right? It doesn't matter if you've had like the ghost of Salvador Dali coming through, like combined with Johnny Ive and like whoever else, do you know what I mean? And and some advertising guru, it's going to it just doesn't matter if the tracking is not sending the right data to your ad platforms and into your ads. So the creative needs to exist in an environment where it can do its best work. And if the tracking isn't right, and then when we talk about broken, it's like your website being broken. If your checkout's broken, yeah, nobody can check out. There's a whole bunch of stuff broken on your website. So it's like a state of broken, right? Most people's tracking is like pretty poorly optimized, right? It's suboptimal. It's broken in many different ways from a number of events. Are you tracking everything you should be, even just from a core five point of view on paid media, page view, view item, or view content, add to cart, checkout, and purchase? Most of those are just missing on Google for most brands, big brands. They're just completely missing all the middle ones, and they're relying on Google Analytics audiences, which are, you're probably missing out half of that data anyway, because it's not native, right? All of this is just straight away, it's just affecting the profitability of your paid media marketing, right? So getting that sorted is it has a direct effect. This is what I'm talking about do you know what impact this stuff has on your profitability? And especially with tracking, 99% of people have got no idea how important that is to profitability. If you're running paid media and you're driving a considerable portion or a meaningful portion of your revenues through digital marketing, paid media marketing, conversion tracking is just a huge step in the path to profitable paid media marketing, and it's the most undervalued, underserved area of performance marketing. The next step in that would be structuring your ad accounts. What we see far too often is no control over the spend from a funnel stage point of view. And when I mean funnel stage, I mean new customer prospecting versus new customer retargeting versus existing customers, and then you funnel within that win back, loyalty, cross sell, etc. That last bit, normally that's completely missing. Everyone thinks retention and thinks email. Who hangs around in their personal email account? No one. You're in there for 2 seconds to get a code or get something or see something, you're out of it. Where are people hanging around? Social media. Where should your retention strategy be? Social media, Google. That's where the attention is. But it's completely overlooked. And so that's reflected in the structures of the ad account. So straight away, there's an issue with retention, returning customer rates, and profitability and loyalty and LTV, which is a really, really core measure for a lot of brands of profitability over a given period of time. So what we see is on Meta, loads of people just Advantage Plus campaigns, yeah, and they might go, oh, we'll just exclude some of our existing customers, and I say some of it because the audiences they upload into their I don't know, they've either run out or they're not live synced or they're just, they only go back 180 days because they've done it on the Pixel. But what you've got left in there is a whole funnel of people that have engaged with your brand multiple times and visited your website and added stuff to cart, and people who've never ever heard about you, and they're just lumped into one campaign and lumped into one ad set. So there's no control over the budget over new customer acquisition, prospecting and retargeting. What happens when you go into, I don't know, Black Friday? We're coming up to Black Friday, on the way there now. Yeah, everyone's building up to it, making their plans for Black Friday. Now, what happens if you want to increase retargeting in Black Friday, but you've just got one Advantage Plus campaign and you've got your prospecting and just lumped into it from a new to brand point of view? You've got no control. You can't go, oh, we'll increase our retargeting now more aggressively. We'll build up, we'll prospect all these orders, and then we'll hit the retargeting more heavily and we'll turn it up from 20% of the overall budget to 30. You can't do that because you don't have the control. And then,
People on that one, Wes. I mean, sorry to kind of like
no
interrupt
worries.
in that flow, but it's an interesting one, and I just want to expand a little bit on that one because a lot of people think that, and and obviously Mark Zuckerberg is out, talking about how, just give us your money, give us your feed, and then we'll do the rest. That's where we want to get to probably eventually. But a lot of people kind of like think we're there now, and so end up with just one campaign, one Advantage Plus campaign, and they think that Meta automatically will somehow expand that one campaign into a full funnel and all these different things, not knowing that you are actually in a lot more control
Well, not
if
just
you want
one
to
Advantage
automate.
Plus campaign, people will have multiple competing Advantage Plus campaigns, and they'll do the same on PMax. PMax, just imagine these are the similar types of things, albeit slightly with Google, right? But the fact is, there's a lack of control and a lack of understanding of the control of budget on these audience types and profitability. So we recently audited an account, um, and just the vast majority of its revenue, we're talking late 60s, 70% of all their revenue, um, and probably more, much more through digital is coming from returning customers, and they're struggling to grow. In the PMax campaigns and in Google, they had ridiculously high ROAS targets, or yeah, so or ridiculously low CAC targets, right? CPA targets. And what that does, if you're not careful with your exclusions, it will just favor your existing customers because your existing customers, it's cheaper to get them to come back and purchase. Generally speaking, there's just not as many of them, so you can't spend as much budget on it, right? So people aren't growing. And then they were doing the same on Meta, just not the right exclusions there, and they weren't carving out the retargeting their existing customers properly. So just the vast majority of their budget on paid media is probably favoring existing customers, or at least customers right at the bottom of funnel who visited the website. And what that does, it adds in a lot of attribution overlap between the channels and email, because email's only retargeting. It's not prospecting. Email's just retargeting the people who are coming to your website and doing something, right. So they're adding up Google plus Meta plus email, and 1 + 1 equals like 29. And then they're like, oh yeah, Meta's just lying to me and Google's just lying to me, and they've got like massive attribution windows on email and Google as well. So all this affects, because, and then they start making decisions based on this data. So actually, your conversion tracking and capturing all the right event, product, and customer data in an as advanced and privacy compliant way as possible is really fundamental to the profitability of your business. If you rely in any way on paid media, it's absolutely crucial. The structures of your accounts and how you control the budget, not just against funnel stage and customer stage, but territory, and really importantly, product, especially at the top of funnel. Products might have different margins, they've got different price elasticities, they've got different size addressable markets, volume, that balance between volume and margin. So having that control, and if you've not got much budget to play with, paid media budget, yeah, you might have to have very lean ad accounts, and you can't segment by funnel stage and product, and you're gonna have to be really smart with how you structure your, particularly your PMax and search campaigns. And then, and I'm just talking, Google and Meta, because you can just apply this stuff to the other ad paid media channels, really. So straight away, just conversion tracking structures. Then you get through to the website conversion rate optimization, and not even just conversion rate, let's call it anti-conversion rate. I don't know, optimization, degradation, right? Conversion rate degradation, really easy thing to do. People changing products on their web, even not even um, producing and managing the product pages properly on their website can have a massive impact. Hiding pages, not putting things out of stock, having things that are out of stock with only a few sizes left, and we're still spending money on paid media and we're still retargeting people. We've had it where, because of the way that the product pages have been managed, over, let's say, 18 months, and the changes to the website, changing URLs, changing structures, titles, descriptions, hiding pages, changing them. Um, Stripping out your SEO value from those pages over 18 months, and all of a sudden this year you've got half the amount of organic traffic that you had than last year. Could be one of a number of reasons, but this is a big contributor. Um, and then we're retargeting, unbeknown to us, we're retargeting people and they're going to 404s. And all of a sudden, like, paid media performance is dying, the CAC's increasing, the ROAS is falling, and we've not done anything in the ad account. Nothing's changed in the ad account. The conversion tracking's handled properly. What have you done on the website? Brand says nothing, not done anything on the website, but they just don't know the impact of the changes that they're making on the website on the profitability of their business. And that cuts across paid media, it cuts across email, it cuts across any affiliate, it cuts across everything, all the traffic, organic that's arriving at your website. And if you mess with organic and you mess with paid media and you mess with it, they all affect each other. So if you've got half the amount of organic traffic reaching your website, paid media retargeting doesn't perform as well because it's just retargeting more and more cold prospecting traffic from paid media. Or you're just spending more and more money on your existing customers and you're not controlling. And if you're doing all these things wrong, which loads of brands are, because they're not, they've outsourced it to an agency who doesn't understand how surgical they need to be with their exclusions. They've got no clue about conversion tracking, and everybody's just focusing on product and they're just focusing on creative. But all the stuff before that, all the foundational data engineering and structural engineering stuff within the ad accounts, within your website, within conversion tracking is being really badly handled. It's going to be so difficult for you to become profitable. And imagine if you are doing all these things badly and you fix them all. Imagine the uplift. I spoke to somebody yesterday who's looking for a 34% improvement in the cost of acquisition. Um, Somebody who's got a really good handle on their numbers. And she said, do you think this is possible? We've audited the ad account, we've audited the conversion tracking, we've looked at the website. And I was like, well, yeah, there's about 200 things that need fixing across all these things. And all those tiny little changes are going to add up to a big change. So yeah, I do think these huge swings are possible when you're pulling all these type, especially if you know exactly how these actions impact on the profitability of your business. And every time you pull a lever, cause and effect, you can see the effect on profitability because you're measuring it. And every time you pull a lever, you can measure it. That's such a power to have that. But yeah, I think just not to labour the point too much, but there's a lot of things being done to websites that affect the tracking, that affect the conversion rate of the website, affects paid media, and it affects email, and it affects organic. It's like this spiral of shit. And I know this sounds all doom and gloom, but it's not. It's more like
There is
kind of
opportunity.
empower. And there's
Yeah,
so much opportunity just
yeah.
to fine tune stuff and
You've
understand
been
how it affects things.
you've been saying something lately a lot is about doing the foundations brilliantly good.
The
What's the
brilliant
what?
basics. Yeah, the brilliant
Yeah,
basics. Yeah.
and I know, like we were in the meeting earlier today with a brand, and we were like, we understand this is the stuff that is boring. To a lot of people, this will be the boring stuff, right? Because this foundation stuff is, like, is laying out the grounds. We met with somebody on Friday, and they were like, finally, somebody who's prepared to do the stuff that nobody else wants to do, like nobody wants else to own. But it's important, to get done. Like those things are mega important to, and like you were saying, they are all levers that can, positively, impact everything else, so that you can then focus on these other bits that are sexier, right? Product and creative and all that, and it doesn't mean that they're not important. It's that if you don't have the foundations, great. Unfortunately, none of that stuff, really matters, and then go wasted, which is worse, right? I mean, it's
I
it's, it's
hope
all
people are
wasted
watching
opportunity.
this. You get people nodding this, or we do webinars, or we do a panel, and the audience is there, and everyone's nodding their head, and then they go away and do absolutely fuck all about it. And they're like, well, I haven't got time. But if they understand, truly understand the impact of this stuff on profitability, especially conversion tracking, I'm going to put it out there. I reckon it's got the biggest effect on profitability in the whole performance marketing industry. Conversion tracking is the number one thing to optimize for profitability. It's the thing that controls targeting. It's the thing that helps you measure. It's the thing that drives all the bidding on the algorithms. It's the thing that helps your creative perform. It's the thing that helps you decide whether to kill an ad or kill a campaign. Yet you've got the structures within the ad accounts, but you can have the best structures in the ad accounts if they're not receiving the right data. We've just checked out with Helga, our CTO, this morning. We're doing an audit, a tracking audit on a huge brand, global brand. They've got a headless setup, Shopify on the checkout and something else on the front end. What a shit show that has made of the GA4 data, but all the data and all the data flowing into the ad platforms. It's a real mess. And then, they're optimizing campaigns and they're making decisions about web performance improvement decisions using GA's, data, and it's all utter garbage. And to be fair, the people at the brand have been like, we know that this data is garbage. Like,
Yeah,
we need
they've
this.
been
Like,
trying to fix it for over 7 months, and it's like it's not until now, I guess, that they landed with a partner that
it's
can
going to have a huge
have it.
effect
But
on their cost of acquisition. It's going to have a huge effect on their, their really fundal unit economics, the P&L of their e-commerce business. It'll have a really meaningful effect just by, fixing all these broken things. And they're able to measure it because they're looking at the data, they're looking at it day in, day out, and they know it's not right. So, they're doing their due diligence, they're doing all this boring, brilliant, basic stuff, and then going, right, we're fed up. No one's been able to fix it. There's loads of bullshitters out there, like who can actually fix this? And a big part of the challenge in fixing something is identifying what's really broken in the first place. That's the really tricky bit, the diagnosis and finding out what's really wrong. Once you know what's wrong, then you know where to aim your energies for fixing it. And once you know what's wrong, you can measure it as well. Because you can go, right, we know exactly it's that thing, like that number right there, this thing. Like, what is it now? What's the baseline? Bang, right, let's make these changes. And have we improved it? And do we know what has improved or made this thing worse? Because people are measuring the conversion rate of their website. Oh yeah, yeah, it's gone up because we've made this change to this button. No, it's payday. Do you know what I mean? Or you just put a 20% off code in Meta. You just put a product, your best-selling product has just come back in stock on your website or something. So yeah, I think understanding the impact of your actions on profitability and just assume absolutely everything has got an impact. And if you're just focusing on product and then creative, you're missing all this other stuff that can help drive help drive profitability in a just as significant a way when you add it all up, the sum of the parts.
yeah, and I think it's understanding, like that user journey, like that path from the ad click all the way to the purchase, which is a recurrent theme that we talk about, and being intentional every single point of the way, and making sure that you're understanding those elements, all the way to product stock levels. You said, like even sizing availability, and being able to control and know that every single action that you take, it does has a reaction to it.
So just before we wrap this up, and we'll just go into the bit of an introduction to the new season. Um, what we hear a lot, especially with conversion tracking stuff, is, oh yeah, we don't have the budget to invest in this now, or it's not
It's not a
it's
priority.
not a priority for us right now, and it's broken, and they're spending 100 grand on paid media. Are you fucking mental? Are you crazy? How can that not be a priority? So you're spending 100 grand on paid media and fixing it and having a subscription and actually having it, kind of enhanced, fixed, enhanced, monitored and maintained would cost you less than 1% of that budget per month. And that will protect the other 99.5% of the budget you're spending on paid media and help it be more profitable. I mean, it should just, as a marketing team, it should just be one of your first priorities. if you're spending decent budget on paid media. And the amount of times that we reach people who have no clue about this stuff and just assume that that has no bearing on profitability or revenue or paid media performance. And they think it's just a ruse to get them on a call, like, oh yeah, it'll drive better paid media performance. No, it's a fact. Doesn't depend on you lot to believe in it, right? It's not an opinion. This is I play this game with my son, right? Fact or opinion. Just so when he grows up in this world of fake news, he knows the difference between a fact and an opinion. And these are facts.
Yeah, it is interesting, and that's why this third season we're going to be focusing a lot on conversion tracking, getting those foundations right. But also, we're going to be speaking to different people, and we're going to be aiming the season to different stakeholders. For lack of a better word, we're going to be speaking to the CFO, who ultimately has to sign off the budget. We're going to be speaking to the managing director, that is going to have to understand what conversion tracking means and why is it super important. We're going to be speaking to the ecom managers, because as well as to the web agencies, or the store partners, whoever you have in there. Because what we have realized over the last few months is that conversion tracking somewhat lands in a no man's land, or no woman's land, person land. Nobody wants to touch that with a stick because it's complex. It's a black hole box, or even hole, because it's where a lot of things get lost. But it seems like nobody wants to take ownership of it. And this has happened to us a lot in the past, where just because we do things in a certain manner at Leaf, I mean, obviously, we don't come from the agency world, we came from the tech world. And, in the tech world, a lot of things are, just pretty much that element of black and white, zeros and ones, right?
Apart
But we
from when the
tend to,
computers turned off.
yeah. But we believe that sometimes the way we approach things is the way everybody does it. And for us, has been a major surprise to realize the lack of ownership that there exists around conversion tracking, about who owns it, who's in charge of monitoring it. One of the reasons why we are bringing to the world Leaf Signal, and sharing, the way we've been doing this, all along. We're going to be sharing with the other agencies. We're going to be sharing it with other partners. We're going to be sharing it with directly to brands, because we know the importance of it. There are a lot of tools out there, that cover for an aspect of it, but they are DIY tools, right? They're there for your developer teams to go in and set it up, but they don't even know what they're setting up for. They don't know the impact that of what they're doing and why it's important. But most importantly is none of them, have this monitoring capability of knowing when it breaks. And a lot of this we have built out of our own paranoia because of knowing how important this is to drive performance. But it's how we believe everybody else should be doing things. So the third season is all going to be about this. We're going to be speaking to multiple people. We're going to be speaking to different type of stakeholders within the realm, because we believe there is an element of education, but there is also an element of starting to understand the impact that this has in a positive way, but also in a negative way if it's not handled right, as we're seeing it, day in and day out. So it is great that this season has been, focused a lot on profitability, seeing great examples. I think Lawrence from the mothership was bang on in, even understanding and having the control. He shared with us the 5 steps that he focused on. Tim focused a lot about loyalty, and why nurturing existing customers are super important. Obviously, Thomas, it was all about numbers. We talk about what it takes to bring a new brand out. But ultimately, at the end of the day, with a lot of these topics, even CRO that we discussed with Will, the key aspect of it is quality of data going in, especially as we transition to a world with the machines control even more of the process. Quality of the data is going to be the only thing that is going to make or break that element, that is going to inform, what they should be doing and where should we be looking at. And ultimately, at the end of the day, just remember, you're still in control. You have to take that control, nurture that control, and steer the machines, in the right direction. And I think again, going back to doing those basics brilliantly done is super key and important. Being intentional and understanding the knockout effects of every decision that you make, because it doesn't matter how small or big those decisions are. Sometimes keeping that communication flowing, it's super important, to for everybody's success. Wes, any parting words?
No, tracking is targeting, tracking is performance, tracking is profitability. We're going to be going into a big report that we've pulled on, I don't know, nearly 10,000 of the top brands in the UK and the US and the state of tracking. Let's just say it's in the late 90s of percent how many of those brands have got broken, meaningfully broken tracking in some way. We're going to be pulling out the categories, the retail categories that are the kind of the big offenders, the channels, the event product and customer data that's missing, and then just sharing as much knowledge and value as possible so that people start to take this subject really, really seriously. As serious as they do the performance of their website. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, and if you don't want to wait, go to leavesignal.com, put in your URL. We'll do a free audit for you. It only takes, a few minutes. You will have it on your own, and you will see, hopefully, you will not have a lot of issues, but like Wes said, based on, a massive audit that we just finished, chances are there is something broken. And the best time to fix that is now, today, when you still have time to bring new levels up leading up to Q4. There is no way this is not a priority. There is no way, there is no budget. If you have money to spend in pay media, you gotta have the foundations right. You gotta protect that bit to make the numbers go further. Ultimately, at the end of the day, if you're listening to this, it's because you care about profitability. It's because you care about your business. So hopefully, that will come through. And in the next season, we're gonna be giving you the tools so that you can understand it a little bit better, but also bring your team on this journey of making the foundations brilliantly done. So that's it, everybody. It's great to have Wes back with me. You're going to be seeing more of his resting angry face in the new season. And with that, that's it. Thank you, everybody. Hope to see you in the next one. Bye.